Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. We are glad to have you and fired up in the Hilltop Studios tonight. I am joined by...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Bocce.
My name is Doc Owen, and you are listening to the Doc
Owen Show.
That's right, folks.
We are glad to have you. We are really glad to have you. We got it going on tonight. It's going to be good. We have. I'm not going to tell you the show. We're all over the social media as Doc Owen Show. DOWENSHOW. You can find us on Facebook. The best place to follow what's happening is on Twitter, and we're on Instagram in a minor way. Pinterest just a little bit, but the two majors we're on for sure, and we have our own blog, docowenshow.com, spelled the same way, and it's growing. We're getting a few posts out there, a little activity, and if you are not a recipient of the Doc Owen Show Insider newsletter, which we don't publish a lot, but we always try to publish when we're going to have a special guest on the show so that you can get notification. And the best way to get on that email list is to go to docowenshow.com, look on the right-hand side, and sign up. And just to tell you how open, honest, and unintruding we are, we simply ask for an email address, first and last name. No big deal. No address, no phone number, no credit card, no nothing. Just so we can reach out to you and tell you what's going on with the show. That's also a good place to go hook up with the podcast. It's in the upper right-hand corner. You can listen to the latest podcast. And if you download our free apps on iPhone or Android, also available under the brand name of Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW, you will have access to our entire library of podcasts, not just the live event as it's going on right now. So that's about it for all the self-serving announcements, but you'll be glad to know that that's it for all of the advertising that's going to go on unless I wind up with an extra 15 seconds in between our chatter and can put in a good word for more Twitter followers. I'm trying to get to 10,000. We're at 5,090. So we're growing at a steady clip of about 100 a week, but I'd like to get there sooner rather than later. So if every one of you will ask one of your friends to follow us, boom, we'll be there by next week, and I will thank you profusely. So, which means a lot. So we will always start our show in a very traditional manner. Ms. Surefire gives us an inspirational quote. Uncle Bocce tells us a little bit about what happened this day in history, and then I close out that group with a leadership quote or two. Sometimes I kind of edge. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from dictionary.com. The actual dictionary.com is a very good reference for people in college. And,
I notice you're not going to spell dictionary for the folks.
Well, now let's get real now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, tonight's quote comes from St. Augustine.
Uncle Bocce's favorite place.
I know. Not Florida, but the actual person.
Oh.
And he was a Christian theologian and philosopher who influenced the development of the Western Christianity and Western philosophy.
He sure did.
Yep. That's a very interesting man. I'm going to have to do some research on him.
Yeah.
And his quote is, "The world is a book, and those who don't travel only read one page."
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
I guess that's why my dad wanted me to start the book early.
Yeah, that's good. Uncle Bocce?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
Well, I've got two things for tonight. On this day in 1775, okay, this
times were tight.
After the Declaration of Independence. Well,
right.
In 1775, just before. Remember we had talked about the taking up arms and all that?
Yes.
Well, they actually they issued a declaration on causes and necessity of taking up arms.
Okay.
Basically, to get them to the point where
Just in case there
they'll
was
be
any
ready.
doubt.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's what Congress did then.
That was the prepper memo of the day.
Prepper
Memo.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
In 1976, and you'll like this, and so will you.
Yeah, go ahead.
In
Let's hear it.
1976, on this day, women inducted into the U.S. Naval Academy.
Oh, yeah.
So, 1976 is when they opened their doors to
For the women.
women.
And you want
And it's
to
been
explain-
downhill ever since.
You
right?
want to
No,
explain
just
to me
kidding.
why I would like that?
Well, because you're part Navy.
I went to the
And
Naval
I'm a woman.
Academy.
You went
And
to
I'm
the
a
Naval
woman.
Academy.
Yeah.
Right. So there.
It was a very heart-rending day for a lot of us. Tonight's leadership quote comes from Peter Sellers. Oh, no, that's wrong. Peter Sinclair.
I knew Peter Sellers.
Yeah. He probably had something that we should know.
Dun-dun,
Yep,
dun,
the
dun,
Pink
dun,
Panther,
dun.
right?
Yeah.
There you go. Depression loses its power when fresh vision pierces the darkness.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Bocce's thinking about it.
No, it's
It's true.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Depression loses its power
Yeah.
when you got I got something I got to go do.
Yeah.
You got a new vision. You work your way through it.
good. Good.
Okay. Tonight's show, we have part 2 of a previous interview. We had part 1 last week. And from the feedback that I got over the course of the week, folks enjoyed it. We had a good time with our local district attorney, Nico Lahood, talking about illegal immigration and sanctuary cities. I still have not been able to circle back and get with Nico on one point that I questioned. But we will pick up where we left off and finish that conversation out on the same topic. I think you will enjoy it. And then we're going to get into a bit of after we do Uncle Bocce's brief, we're going to have a bit of a conversation about Confederate monuments and history and that sort of thing. We'll just kind of see where it leads us. All right? So, Uncle Bocce, you ready to walk us through the colonies just right before the Constitution? I think
Declaration.
we still hadn't had the Declaration of Independence yet?
Not yet.
I think it's time we did that. We're
We're
a
gonna-
couple of 3 days late.
Yeah, but we're going to do it.
Okay.
In a couple of weeks.
We can blame it on traffic.
Yeah, exactly. We could.
Okay.
Okay.
You're on.
Tonight we're going to talk about Thomas Paine's Common Sense. Most of you have
Wish
heard
we-
about that.
Wish we had some today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And
uncommon.
that'll come back to us later, right?
Common sense ain't.
Yeah.
Uncommon sense.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit about Thomas Paine. He was born in Britain, actually, in 1737. He had some formal education, but it only continued until age 13. And at that point, he decided he was going to work for his father.
So he was like the Americans of today.
Yeah.
At age 13.
At age 13,
they know
you
everything.
go to work.
Well, you know everything.
Oh, they know everything. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Eventually, he took a low-paying job in tax collecting.
Oof.
And while he was doing that, he educated himself further in his free time. In 1772,
So
Paine-
he was. So at age what? At age 13.
he was at age 13.
He was a tax collector
Right.
with a British accent on U.S. soil.
There you go. Okay.
Go figure. Okay, go ahead.
In 1772, Paine was fired for publishing an article arguing that raising tax collectors' salaries would reduce corruption. Now, go figure that. It seems like the more money we pay everybody's, the more they want. So I don't know about that. Shortly thereafter, in London, Paine met Benjamin Franklin.
Oh.
Yeah. That
Now
was
we're coming up towards common sense.
right. And Benjamin Franklin convinced him to move to America. So he emigrated to America in late 1774. Okay? That's when he gets on the scene.
Prime time.
He hasn't been there a colonist for very, very long. So that was a few months before the Revolutionary War started, which started on April 19, 1775, the first battle. He immediately...
April the 12th, right?
April 19th.
Okay. Go ahead.
You know something I don't know? Okay.
That's the day of my birthday.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. And he immediately became involved in American political life, and he was editing Pennsylvania Magazine and writing a variety of articles. So he had a little bit of a writing background. After the first battle of the war, Paine began to argue that the American colonists should seek complete independence rather than merely fighting to free themselves from unfair British taxation. So there were these two camps that existed at the time. Some people just wanted to stay with Britain, and others they wanted complete independence.
There's always rhinos in the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. So he made this argument in his pamphlet, Common Sense, which I think is like 79 pages, which first appeared in January of 1776.
Wow.
And immediately became popular and widely spread, and we'll see how widely in a moment. Paine's ideas played a central role in rallying the public opinion. And that's what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And he believed so much in what he was talking about.
Well, and they listened because he was a former tax collector.
I guess, maybe, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew the inside scoop.
Okay, and his writing was a precursor to the Declaration of Independence. That's how you got to know a little bit about Thomas Paine before we go into Declaration. Because the Declaration of Independence didn't become viable until 6 months later.
Right.
So he was 6 months ahead of time. The pamphlet thrust Paine into national spotlight, and some say he even after that he was given a prestigious government appointment. I don't know what that is. I didn't go any further than that. Many of the delegates to the Continental Congress were not convinced that complete independence were desirable. Remember I said there's different camps, right? Sure. Yet there were terrible injustices the colonists could not forget. The Americans were divided against themselves. Arguments for independence were growing, and Thomas Paine provided that little extra push with Common Sense. Now, Common Sense was an instant bestseller. It was published in 1776 in Philadelphia, and the estimates are that anywhere from 120 to 150,000 copies were in circulation by April. So
Holy
January, February,
guacamole.
March. Yeah.
Without Amazon.
Without Amazon and with a very small population compared today.
It can be done.
Okay? So Paine's brilliant arguments, they were very straightforward. He argued two main points. Independence from England. Second, the creation of a democratic republic. Imagine that.
Major.
Two major things. And this was
Where
his
did he get that
passion.
idea?
Okay. We'll get there. The point is though that at the time in this era, the colonists, they were very well educated in the sense of government, what government should be. So Thomas Paine, he really was pulling from people like John Locke and Montesquieu, these ideas. So the ideas that eventually became part of the Declaration of Independence were not anything new. And when we study the Declaration of Independence, we'll look at that a little more.
I get the feeling that back in the day, there was a whole lot more discussion.
Absolutely.
About not politics, but about governance, let's call it. Not government, but governance.
Yes.
How are we going to manage ourselves? What are we, right? I mean, it was very open discussions and conversations.
Absolutely.
I mean, today we're doing good to get 10% of the people to participate in the vote.
I know, right?
And back then, I mean, maybe it's just because that's what we read, but I think that an awful lot of people were involved in participating in developing this country.
Yes.
Okay.
They were very much. I mean, what else did they have to do besides read books?
Farm.
But anyway,
Yep.
but they Okay, so he wrote in the language of the people. He was not a flowery prose writer.
Okay.
And he often quoted the Bible. Now, most Americans at the time had a knowledge of the Bible.
Right.
So his arguments rang true to them. Okay?
Sure.
He goes into Judges, the book of Judges, chapter 8, verses 22, 23, and further. And basically what he sets up there is the idea of, because he's anti-monarchy, okay?
Right.
And so he relates this in the Bible where it talks about Israel saying, we want a king like all other nations. That's basically what Judges talks about. They wanted a king.
Okay.
And so, kingship was created by heathens, people who did not.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So he considered it an evil to want to set up a king.
Right.
Okay. So God eventually gave them what they wanted. He told Samuel. He said that Samuel went to him many times, and he said, "Listen to the voice of the people."
Okay.
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 How important is that? Now, Paine himself was not a very religious person, but he knew his readers were. King George, he called the Pharaoh of England. There's the nuance there.
Yep.
The Pharaoh of England.
Right.
And the Royal Brood of Great Britain. He touched a nerve in the American countryside.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think we'll stop there for tonight.
He was a young guy.
He was a young guy.
When he was doing this, if I'm following the timeline correctly.
Yes.
I mean, he was like 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So next week we'll continue on that vein, and we'll talk about his ideas about the British government and all of that, and how he splits their society and the government. They're two different things, and we'll talk a little bit more
about this. I mean, was Paine a signatory? Did he sign the Declaration of Independence?
No.
He was what we call an influencer.
That's correct.
Right? In other words,
That's correct.
He was kind of out. He was an influencer.
Yeah, and he got on the bandwagon immediately.
He was like that guy in Florida that's trying to get started on the radio. He could influence public opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll pick up there next time.
Okay.
I am Uncle Bachi. You can reach me at Uncle Bachi, UNCLEBACI, at DocOwenShow.com.
Thank you, Uncle Bachi.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And Uncle Bachi lives for those emails. He gets up like 4:30.
That's right.
In the afternoon, and that's his
not quite that
that's
bad.
his prime reading before he has his supper.
Yeah.
Which is his breakfast?
Which is his breakfast, right.
Okay.
And he watches the 10 o'clock news, which is like watching Good Morning America to him. So I don't know. I don't understand it, but that's just the way he likes to do it. Thanks, Uncle Bachi.
Watch them.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We are. If you listened to the show last week or got a chance to download the podcast, which I certainly hope, you heard part one of a conversation that we had with local district attorney, an extremely bright young man, and a very conservative Democrat. But we enjoy talking to him about all sorts of topics. It's hot again in Texas, not just the weather, but the sanctuary city illegal immigrant issue because of a thing called Senate Bill 4, SB 4. The state passed and said sanctuary cities are illegal. So all of the sanctuary cities in the state filed a lawsuit and said, you're wrong, we're going to stay like we are. And it's creating a bit of a firestorm. And I bring it up not because I want to bring you into Texas and Texas politics, but because I want to bring you into the current now upfront and close situation that is likely to come to your area soon, if not already there. So that I need to make that qualifier. This is not about local. It's about a local situation, but extrapolate to your town, and it's an easy fit.
It applies
You'll
to
be
everyone,
able to see where you are. It applies to everyone. That's what it's all about. So without further ado, we will hear from Mr. Nico Lahood.
Here's number 2. It is not against the law to be in this country illegally. That's going to jack you up.
Mr. Lahood.
It jacked me up. It's not against the law. It's a civil action. That's why if somebody comes in on their first, someone says, I'm going to the United States,
It's not
I
a
need to
criminal.
work.
When you say it's not against the law,
It's not, you're not violating the federal statutes. It's a civil action. You're removed, but it's not against the law. Let me give you a comparison. If I walk onto your property, I'm not guilty of criminal trespass automatically.
okay.
Why? It's going to be a law school exam. Why?
I
have to
don't
be
know,
given
actually.
notice.
Okay.
You have to say, don't come in, or as I'm on your property, hey, Nico, get the hell off my property.
What if I got a sign up that says do not
But
trespass?
for the state law, that's appropriate. It has to be
Okay.
conspicuous. It has to be, you have to
Okay.
get notice. The issue
to
I'm
get
trying to
some
make
sort
is
of-
notice, right?
Yes, sir.
It's not inferred. I know it makes sense. Hey, come in right, but there's no notice inferred on them. So when they come in the first time, it's not a crime.
Okay.
It's a civil action that gets you removed now.
Now you've got notice.
Now you have notice.
Okay.
And so the charge is illegal re-entry into this country. That's a crime. Didn't that jack you up? I get it. But you see how there's so many dynamics here going on.
It does sort of, but at the same time,
It makes sense, too.
You gotta go with it does make
It makes sense. I'm sorry, brother.
That's all right.
Look at his face. I wish you could see his face. Too bad he's not Skype. He's normally handsome, and now he's all red.
Oh yeah, I am all right.
No,
Well,
it's easy.
okay. I mean that's
But
a
does
good
it-
lesson to learn.
Does it make sense to you, though?
It does make sense.
I want
but
you to know. You
because
know me.
of my immediate reaction to this thing about Garcia, it makes even more sense. I understand them having the protections of the Constitution.
I really
I'm not
think
sure
things
I
add up.
appreciate it. You know?
I really think things.
I know you
have
do.
to. You have to.
I know you do.
And I'm really big, and that's why the advice to the commissioners was to respond, not react. But now, even after
That's
we looked at it, now that
well
we've had
said.
more time, I think I could understand why they want to be involved in the lawsuit. I mean, look at the issues I have with the bill.
So you think that
I just wanted
it wasn't
to vet it out.
necessarily a knee jerk. It appeared to the appearance was, or the optics, as is the current term, was that it was somewhat of a knee jerk reaction.
In my opinion,
you think
I
they had
think-
thought through some of this stuff.
Well, they didn't make the legal analysis. I mean, I'm not being mean, but
Right,
I think
right,
it
right.
was. In my humble opinion, I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, to be honest. But it happened to be the right knee-jerk reaction.
So they got lucky.
Maybe. I mean, and maybe you ask them, they might say something completely different.
Right.
They might say, well, it's going to discriminate. Well, let me tell you what they mean by that. Okay, and I don't know. I wait for it to happen before I complain about something.
Yes,
That's
sir.
my own policy, right?
Right.
So here, I'm going to make it personal for me. You get pulled over. Do you think
Why am I always
Because you look like a
culprit in
crook.
this? Okay,
mean,
I'll
you
shave
do.
it. I'll shave it.
I mean, most people would argue that someone's not going to question you for being an American citizen. You don't
Right.
have, you don't have
No.
a Russian accent,
I
an
got-
Irish accent, a Mexican accent, nothing. So
No.
you sound like country boy, American, and look like it. My wife gets pulled over, and well,
He can't help it.
A little jab. I love this guy, man. My wife has an accent. My brother-in-law has an accent.
Right.
They're both American citizens, by the way.
Right. Oh, forget.
And so, but
Yeah.
would they? How do you decide? Remember, it says don't discriminate. Okay, well, that's in the law. That's in SB4. I get theoretically. Their position is how does that play out?
Yeah.
What it goes into your assessment on discriminating?
And everybody's going to be different, and some of them are going to be.
Well, how would you? Let's say you
less
and I are,
educated, not less educated, but less worldly. I mean, and I'll
Doc,
tell you when this came up with me. I was 17 years old. I'm standing in line at New York City Music Hall with my parents. Okay, and the key to this is I'm 17 years old, and there were some girls talking behind me. They were talking. And they were talking like this, they sounded like that, and blah, blah, blah. I'm from Texas, and I wanted to turn around and see what this voice looked like, right? They were about my age. they were black. And I was like, whoa. Wait, time out. You know, because I'm from the South, and we have a particular vernacular that goes with not race, but certain neighborhoods and ethnic backgrounds, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that was I learned that real early.
Just because the way someone sounds doesn't mean anything. And it's a point taken. And so if you and I are police officers and we pull someone over, what would be our deciding factor on whether we ask someone for their immigration papers?
Right.
It's going to be whether they look Mexican, Middle Eastern, you know.
And we couldn't tell from their driver's license. We couldn't tell from a lack of driver's license.
No.
We couldn't.
Some people that are illegally here have Social Security numbers.
Yeah,
Some
we don't know whether they match, whether they're real or not. But that's a
irrelevant.
Story.
I mean, you're not there scanning them with something. I mean,
that's right.
You don't know what to look for. I don't either. And so what would be our deciding factor? We'd look for accent, or we'd look for a certain race. We really would, unless you see a white guy or white girl with a heavy accent, a Russian accent, that I'd be like, "Are you from here?" or Polish accent.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm an American citizen. I don't believe you. Now what? Now we go back to my first point.
To your first point.
We wait for ICE or Homeland Security, and we wait, and they're not back on patrol.
So if there's no probable cause upon which to pick them up in the first place,
reasonable suspicion to stop them,
and then
probable cause to detain them,
right?
And then now what? Now let's say that
let's play this out. What you're saying is, and you're right, the probable cause cannot be the fact that they're
certain ethnic group,
right?
Accent, what are you going to say?
How
many times do you hold somebody and then you end up being wrong? They're citizens now. Would you subject them?
This is no fun.
Who's going to pay?
You're supposed to. No.
Well, brother, I'm just going to speak truth.
I'm
man.
just giving you a hard time.
Truth is truth.
It is fun.
Let me tell you,
I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Just
one of Winston
Churchill's
famous quotes. He said, "The most valuable thing in the world is the truth."
Yeah,
it's true. Because there's no justice without truth. We have to have truth.
Correct.
And so I seek truth, and I search it, and I speak it, and I don't care what political party it lands on. I mean, like, I agree with the governor on certain issues. I disagree with him on certain issues, and I have my opinion. He has his. Me and the sheriff, me and the chief, me and council or commissioners or whatever. But I try to analytically analyze everything. I look at everything deeply, and I play it out in steps.
Right.
I try to separate my emotions. I'm a passionate guy, as you know.
Yep.
But I separate my emotions when I'm making my analysis of any issue. I have to train myself to look at objective facts.
Yep.
That's what we do in this office, right?
Correct.
So,
well, you're not good to any of us if you don't.
Huh? That's right. Well, it's true.
It is true.
Let me tell you what I tell people, and I've said this to you before. With any issue, this applies to everybody. Be careful of the world you help create.
Yes.
Because someday you might have to live in it.
You might have to live in it. That's right.
And I never forget that. I learned that as a young lawyer a long time ago, and so I've never forgotten that.
You're still a young lawyer.
Well, thank you, brother.
So a good one, but a young lawyer.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, man.
Did I get you?
Well, yeah, a little, but that's okay. I was prepared for it.
But Daddy, I got gotten myself in this process of educating myself.
It's not. This is a tough thing to deal with.
Let me tell you why my advice was my advice.
The politics is one. Pardon me, but the politics doesn't make it any easier to deal with.
I can't stand politics.
I know, but it's out there, and I deal with it.
I know.
I mean, on our show, we talk about current events. I don't talk about. Make it not to talk about politics, but. And I think, I think the reason that all of the Hollywood types are reacting so strongly to what's going on is because they're not getting the limelight that they're used to getting, and the politicians are outshining them. And so
politicians and actors, they both irritate me. They don't live in the real world, you know. I mean, so it drives me insane. I mean, so look, it's important that we have conversations and I will tell you this. Let me tell you why my advice.
You have to rub elbow. You have to deal.
Well,
with
no, I do.
On one level, you have to deal with it.
But to your point, when you brought up earlier in our conversation, you said that I gave the advice to the commissioners to wait 30 days. Right? No,
that was how I interpreted it. Yes.
No, I did. I gave that advice. Okay. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
The conversation we just had, this moment today,
yep.
I couldn't have had at the time that I made that statement.
Interesting.
So then I would have been reacting instead of responding. I'm consistent about my advice.
If nothing else, you wanted your time to.
Well, now look, guess
to
what?
sort it all out.
I would have supported them at the time, but
Right.
I needed to be able to do what I'm doing with you, articulate why.
Right.
At that time, it was so fresh, I could not articulate why.
Interesting.
So how can I give advice if we as an organization, a body, our civil section had analyzed it before me. I have other things too. And I had not been briefed. I had not done my own investigations. I had not done my research and studied it.
Yeah.
I could not have had this conversation.
Did
back
you
then.
gather some of your subject matter expertise together?
Absolutely. We sat in this room, and I went back and forth with them.
Good.
So
good,
that's
good.
that's the only reason why I can have this conversation with you.
I like it.
And I'll learn
like
something more tomorrow.
Well, and that was actually part of a major part of my PhD training. I used to be a whole lot more opinionated than I am today. And the reason that it's mellowed is doing the research, respond. Say it again. Say it one more time for me and the rest of the audience.
Be careful.
Don't react.
Oh, respond. Don't react.
Respond,
Yeah.
don't react. Okay.
We have a country
Yeah.
and a society
I like it.
that is addicted to our feelings,
Yeah, I like
and
it.
we react over respond. I say, look, I'm going to
We've
respond.
had that addicted to our feelings conversation.
We have had that before.
Yeah.
But it's relevant in today's society.
Totally.
When you ask people why they take a position they take, very few people can give you the why. They will regurgitate a soundbite.
They'll tell you.
They'll just tell you a soundbite or some BS rhetoric.
On both sides.
On both sides, yes. I'm fair.
I
I'm
was
not
talking about it earlier today. One of the reasons somebody was complaining that we don't seem to have people in the middle anymore, and I think it's because both extremes are so far out there from what we used to be, and it's really physics. They're pulling so hard to the outside that it's very difficult for people in the middle to stay in the middle and work together, because they got this toe going on both left and right.
I think I am so opposed to deception. I mean, it's at the core of my spirit, and I've shared with you why. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. I don't push it on anybody, but I talk about it when it's appropriate, and it's appropriate now because I'm explaining why I hate deception. Because God's character is one of truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Truth. John 18:33, John 8:31, over and over goes 2 Timothy 2:15. Yeah. Truth. Matter of fact, in Proverbs 6:16, it says, God hates deception. Read the 6 things he hates. Why do we swear on a Bible? Because in the Christian faith, our God, his character is truth. We are to speak the truth in love. It's truth. I can give you scripture after scripture, example after example, that if we don't have truth, we have no justice.
Right.
There's no true justice without truth. And so as a foundation, whenever I'm going to get into a discussion with anybody, even if we're imposing on our sides, I say, will you agree with me? Can we start from the position of agreement? What do you mean? Can we start from the position of agreeing that we're both going to pursue the truth wherever it takes us?
Right.
If they tell me no, then I'm not going to waste
Can't
my
go
time.
there.
Because then you're just here to argue. I'm here to defend a position, and you can too, but we have to start somewhere. And that position has to be one of truth, both of us. We have to humble ourselves.
Yep.
We have to put our agendas and our feelings on a shelf, and objectively, like a scientist.
Yes.
What does that say? What does science stand for? Basically, the rational pursuit of what? Of truth.
Of truth.
That's what a scientist does.
Right.
He or she pursues truth rationally,
no
not irrationally.
No manipulation, no nothing to it.
It is
Just
what
lay
it
'em
is,
out.
as they say, right?
Chop. That's correct.
And so I start from that position and work backwards.
Yep.
And I've
so
changed
you get there.
I've changed my opinion on things.
I know. As have I.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and I did not have this opinion early on in this debate and discussion.
I didn't either.
So
I didn't either.
I don't know why. I haven't really studied, nor do I have time. Why the new mayor, is his position, or the councilman, and this, and who knows? I have no idea. I'll learn soon enough. I'm going to be on a show with him, I think, this week.
Oh yeah, cool.
But now I'm telling you, my logical objective, not subjective. Nothing I talked about is subjective here.
Right.
It's all objective, practical application or lack of why I don't think this bill is the best thing for it.
So the way we approach things is very similar.
Okay.
And so that's going to make us equally challenged to find solutions.
Right.
This is a really difficult thing to resolve, in my opinion.
I don't think it is. It should have never been either.
No, I'm not talking about Senate Bill 4. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the whole concept of the bigger picture. Wall no wall, or how do we protect our?
Well, it starts here. It starts with the concept of we're Americans.
Yeah.
And do we agree that we?
I'm big on assimilation.
Well, of course. Look, let me tell you. No, man, don't get me started. I don't know if we have enough time. If you invite me to your home, I don't get to do whatever the hell I want to do.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I assimilate to the rules of your home.
It's an analogy.
Now you might say, Nico, please treat this as your home, but you still don't mean it. I mean, I'm not using your master bathroom,
right,
and leaving you a present and sleeping in that bed. You're going to give me a guest room. You're going to offer me your food,
right?
And I don't smoke, but you're not going to allow people smoking.
It's a way of saying, be comfortable.
Be comfortable.
Be comfortable.
Let me be a very good host.
Right.
But in the end, while I'm within the borders of your home, I assimilate to your rules.
Right.
Or else I don't go. And
Same thing we tell our children.
It's no different. It's not that hard. I don't understand all that stuff. I'm not into multiculturalism. I'm not into this one world.
And that's it. We do
I think
share
we
that.
celebrate culture. We have to. I'm Lebanese and I'm Hispanic.
Right.
I love the Mexican traditions. I love the family. I love the
they
fellowship.
Some good stuff.
And the dancing and the love and the cariños and the hugging and the kissing and the pinching. I'm very affectionate that way. And then on the Lebanese side, you gather around a table and you break bread together.
Yep.
And you fellowship and you spend time and you look in someone's eyes and you shake their hand and you give them your word. I mean, so these are tremendous traditions, cultural traditions that I want to celebrate. I've made part of me, but I'm still an American first and foremost.
Right.
Period. End of story.
Right.
I'm an American. I'm not a Lebanese American. I'm not a Mexican American.
No hyphens.
I'm an American of Lebanese Mexican descent.
Right.
That's how I say it.
Right.
Not the other way around.
Right.
I'm an American.
You got to do it first. It's got to be first.
Has to, Daddy. I mean, come on. We're in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Look, you go to Saudi Arabia.
But you're like I am. You're like I am. I don't there's some parts of it, even the argument, that I just don't understand. I mean, it's like.
Of what argument? Of open borders?
Well, of all that kind of stuff, the folks that put the wrong heritage first, what is it about it that they really do not get? And that sort of frustrates me. Then when I'm in that kind of an environment or talking to somebody that thinks that way, I have a tendency to react and not respond.
Well, here's the deal. But I want to know why. I ask them. No, but I ask them. I say, tell me, I want to know. We have to be able to talk.
Yeah.
Look, in this day and age, in this culture and society, it's so divided that if we disagree on an issue, we have to hate each other. That's stupid.
That is. How are you ever going to resolve it if you start from there?
You don't. And then you try to win at all costs.
Yeah.
Then you start deceiving to win, and it's not about the truth anymore. Do you see why the truth is so important? Because the truth will take precedence if you're committed to it over a personal agenda, over anything else.
Life could be hard on you. You know that, right?
On who?
You.
Life's hard, period. But I walk with the Lord, man. I humble myself. Okay.
Because you're.
Huh? Because what?
You're challenging, and your expectations are always high, which is cool.
But you know what someone said to me the other day? They said, Nico, it's so funny. People think that you're so complicated, but you're really simple.
Yeah.
You live your life, and I do. There's no show for these listeners. You know that. I'm the same way off.
No.
Colorful words, But my point is I live by certain principles that are simple.
I think they probably figured out we don't script our conversations.
No. I'm just saying that I live my life really pretty simple.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
I don't think I agree. I don't think mine's complicated either. But outsiders tend to have issues. Yeah, I'm like you. Right.
I'm going to share with you. Let me share with you a quote that I saw about a month ago, and I want to share it with you. I think it was George Orwell. I jotted it down, and of course my phone is slow as hell, so it's not going to. Let me see if I can get it for you.
He's a government employee. We can't. He's like on an iPhone 2.
Golly, man, I miss private practice in that sense. Let me see if I can find. Here it is.
But he always looks dapper, and
I was correct. It was George Orwell.
Good for you. I knew you.
Okay, thank you. The quote is this. The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. That's pretty insightful.
You and I both saw that. You saw it on Facebook or somewhere.
No.
Where did you see it?
I have no idea. I read it in a famous quotes column.
Yep.
An article that was sent to me.
I've seen it recently.
Have you read it?
Yes, sir.
But it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. It was in a book. I know exactly where it was.
Okay. The further a society drifts from the truth, societal truths,
Yes.
Penal Code truth, American value truths, our foundational truths. And, we've talked about that before.
Sir.
And what the Constitution and what America stands for. The more we'll hate those who speak it. I think that's very insightful, George Orwell.
I do too.
Maybe you can look up when he said it, because if he said it a long time ago,
I'll find out.
let me know,
I'll
please.
find out.
I'm serious.
I will. I know you are.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
I thought that was fascinating. I think
It
it's
was
true.
quite some time ago.
Yeah.
So
What else?
turn it off.
We're done?
Well, I don't know. What time is it? How are we doing? What time?
If we're done, we're done. We can.
10 till 5.
Ooh.
Well, as you can tell, we were done. Nico had something else he wanted to talk about, and we're going to have to circle back and get with him on it. It had to do with a local case of a lady who was about to be paroled from prison for the murder of some children. She was an RN and took advantage of her position 20 or 30 years ago.
Many years ago, about like 30 years ago.
Yeah, and she was about to get on parole, and Nico has been involved in not letting her out on parole and working with the justice system to keep her in there. And he had recently been interviewed by some real big name press out of the East Coast because of what he was doing, and he brought it up after we finished our conversation. And I frankly at the time didn't know that much about it. It wasn't on my radar, and he seemed kind of disappointed. But I'll make it up to him. We'll circle back and have that conversation. So, because it's something that's real near and dear to him. The first thing something came across my desk that I thought you should know about. It's called 2017's Best and Worst States for Military Retirees. Just thought I'd bring that up because San Antonio recently had trademarked a logo and the words San Antonio Military City, USA. We are very proud of the fact that we have more retired military in San Antonio than any other metropolitan area in the United States. And so, we got that. And that's a big deal. Come to find out, however, on a statewide basis, the number one overall rank goes to Florida. And actually number 2 goes to Montana, then followed by New Hampshire, Wyoming, South Carolina, Alaska, Maine, and Texas is number 8 on a statewide basis in terms of, there's all sorts of things that they measure: economic environment, quality of life, healthcare risk, et cetera, et cetera. And so, they tally all these things up. It was a pretty interesting study, and I just bring it up for the fact that Texas is actually overall ranked number 8, and some of those states may have surprised you in terms of their overall ranking.
Florida did, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty good. Let's talk about something, and I may even need to refer to my handy, trusty, reliable computer that I carry around in my pocket called a phone. But it has long since quit being a phone, and I will see if I can call an article up but it has to do with, as you may or may not be aware, depending on how much attention you're paying, over the course of the last, 6 months, there were 4 Confederate monuments taken down under the cover of deep, dark night in New Orleans, Louisiana. All right? A stronghold and so they took down 4 Confederate monuments and moved them off to a warehouse. And they're supposedly going to put together a Confederate monument park where they can all rest together rather than spread out in the parks that they were overlooking in New Orleans. Right. As a result, we will be going to Nashville.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing right now.
So, and that's too bad, because New Orleans is a good place, but you got to dig your heels in sometime and say, I'm not going to put up with it. So that same sentiment has now come home to roost in San Antonio, Texas. And if you listen to this show, particularly the last couple since we've had a new election here, I have been on a bit of a a rampage or a rant or expressing extreme concern about a coming fight over the Alamo. And I could assure you that it is coming. And so this is kind of gearing up for that. It seems that they are now trying to do away with what they consider to be a Confederate monument. And I say that because the monument itself, I took a close look at it. It's actually in two pieces. And the part that they object to could be taken out of the monument with absolutely no pain whatsoever to what the monument is actually about. I'll deal with that in just a minute. It's a monument to a fellow by the name of Colonel William, I think it's B as in Benny, William Travis, who was the commander of the forces at the Alamo, that they all died there. And if you're not familiar with that happened in like 1836, which was approximately 30 years before the Civil War.
Yeah.
So, give me a break, folks. You know, but the main thing is reel it all the way back to the Civil War. This rhetoric that the Civil War was fought to end slavery is absolutely false. I don't know any more blunt or plain way to put it. The tagline of this show is deliver truth to youth. So if that caused you some consternation, if that set off a trigger in you, as young people say, then sit the hell down and listen to what we have to say. The Civil War was not fought to free the slaves.
That's correct.
The President of the United States at the time, thought I was going to talk about Trump, didn't you? The President of the United States at the time, a fellow by the name of Abraham Lincoln, stated specifically that the war was not about slavery at the time of the war. Right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
The war was fought because the southern part of the United States had had enough of the tyranny and the bossing and the controlling and the blah, blah, blah that was going on coming out of Washington, D.C., and they decided to secede, which if you don't know what that means get out of the United States. We will go our own way, a la North Korea, South Korea, a la any other divided country, North and South that you want to call it. That's what the South was willing to do because they had had enough of the government in Washington. Mm-hmm. President Lincoln went to war to prevent that from happening and, in his words, save the Union.
That's right.
In other words, if you won't obey us when we tell you, we will force you. And they did. It was not about freeing the slaves. Now, that became a byproduct, but I got more news for you that we have learned. And that is that when the slaves were freed, they were only freed in the South. They were not freed in the North. Northern slaves got no additional liberty or freedoms whatsoever out of the war between the North and the South. And the ones in the South were freed by the United States government as an economic punishment against the South for starting the war, for having the audacity to try to withdraw from the United States of America. Mm-hmm. Is that not, Bocce, you're the historian. Did I say anything that was not true?
Sense. No, you're absolutely right. And you clarified it in very good terms.
When all of this started coming up over the rebel flag, I went sideways.
Yeah.
And sideways led me to doing my research. I had to know why I felt like I felt, because I am not a fear-mongering, redneck, anti-black person. But I'm a firm supporter of the South. It's because I grew up there. And so I know I was told through my heritage what the war is really about. So all of this nonsense that's coming out of the liberals and the left and the tearing down, Let me give you an example that I thought of earlier today. Have you seen? You remember seeing the news clips or the internet clips or whatever you saw when ISIS was running a rampage through whatever the country it was that they were, and they were tearing down all of these historical monuments from the 800s and the 900s and the year 1000, and they were completely destroying history because they didn't like it. What's the difference?
I remember when they
tell
did
me
that
what's
in Iraq.
wherever it was.
Yeah.
Explain to me, somebody explain to me, if you can, what the difference is between what they did and what the liberals are trying to do today.
There is no difference.
That's exactly right. There is no difference.
That's
now, this is our heritage, like it or not. But you need to understand what the Civil War was about. So when you see the monument of a Civil War veteran or a Civil War hero, it's not because they were slave owners. It's not because they were fighting to keep their slaves.
That's right.
They were fighting to get rid of too much government.
Exactly.
I don't know how else. I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, I'm really sorry that it doesn't fit the agenda or the narrative of all these folks trying to destroy our history. But it's not. You're destroying something. You're destroying the truth, and you're going to replace it with bull sugar.
That's right.
You're going to replace it with crap. I mean, I can't. I really can't control my emotions when it comes to this sort of thing.
It's tough. It's tough to control your emotions on something like that.
I mean, I have real issues with stupidity.
Yeah.
And this is just rampant stupidity that's going on.
It really is.
I do not know how to get through to the people that are thinking that way. And I can assure you, the worst part about it is when I try to talk to somebody that's on the other side about the truth and why their actions are based on a lie, I'm wrong. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, well,
I obviously don't know what I'm talking about.
They just completely flat out reject it because they don't want to know the truth. They have a problem with it.
Can't be possible. It can't be possible.
It's not.
What I started to
They're
tell you,
ideologues.
They're some kind of logs. So this monument is actually in two pieces, and I want you to hear this. At the top of the piece, it says, "Lest we forget," and on the bottom half, it says, "Our Confederate dead." Well, first of all, remember this was done about 30. That he died at the Alamo, and if you don't remember the phrase "remember the Alamo," then you're from another planet. And because it wasn't just about the Alamo, and it wasn't just about Texas. It was a major turning point for the United States of America versus Mexico. I mean, that's really what it was about. These guys were defending what they thought, their rights to do what they'd been told they had the right to do by the Mexican government. Uncle Bocce's going to grace us, and he's going to challenge me. I'm going to challenge him. We're all going to get involved in doing some research on the Alamo, what went on before it, what went on during it, and what went on after it. We're going to dig as deep as we can. We're going to try to bring it to you hour by hour. But I can assure you, Colonel Travis is a Texas and an American hero.
Yes,
he belongs exactly where he is, in the center of Travis Park in downtown San Antonio. Austin County, our state capital, is in Austin, Texas, is in Travis County. The guy, he gave it all. He died.
He died for it.
Every one of them did. So we'll be reaching out to our friends in Tennessee, our friends in Louisiana, our friends in Oklahoma, Arkansas, all these other places that sent people to the Alamo to help defend it. We're gonna find out about that. This is not going to go down easy. Doc Owen Show is going to be all over it, and stay with it. So we'll be doing the history.
Promise.
Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.